Good day, and I decided to, out of the blue, create this little short Let's Play of Return of the Triad. Now, I'm joined by the M-Man, and we tried to get it to work co-op, and it didn't work. And I was too lazy to bother to try to figure out how to make it work. Now, what is Return of the Triad, you may ask? Well, it is a free, entirely free, as in you don't even have to have base Doom 2, total conversion of Doom. That converted it into a fan-made sequel to Rise of the Triad, the original 1994 game. Now, as you can see here, you can choose from the different characters. I'm not sure if their stats carry over or if they're all the same guy. I'm still going to go with the old Terradino Kazat. And you got 2 episodes, The Hidden Outpost and Return of the Triad. We're just going to play through episode 1 just so you guys can see it. Now, of course, it's been 5 years after the San Nicolas Island Monastery was destroyed. Hunt headquarters picks up a transmission originating from El Oscuro's destroyed base. The Hunt is deployed to investigate. Upon reaching the island, they discover a metal door leading inside the mountain. Alright, so... that was a mouthful. Now, in your opinion, M-Man, what sort of art styles make for a good first-person shooter?
Depends on what kind of shooter you're trying to make. Because if you're trying to make something that's relaxing, but also blood-pounding, you generally use warm pastel colors, I suppose, and definitely stylize it. You know, it's like, okay, in case of point, Team Fortress 2, it uses stylized characters, it uses bright colors. And it's just, you know, fun. Something that you just turn off your brain with, you know? It's not supposed to be taken seriously. But if you're trying to...
No, go on.
But if you're trying to go for something serious, yeah, base realism can do the job, I suppose. Much in the same way that KFC can feed you with the proper nutrients if you don't honestly have any other source of food around. But I prefer it when there's some sort of unifying style to it all. Now, this isn't a first-person shooter, but Dark Souls has the right type of style. Everything is sort of, as far as I know, now I haven't played Dark Souls for more than 10 minutes, and even those 10 minutes were only 3 minutes worth of gameplay, don't ask. The entire world, as I understand, is dying, and everything looks so, at once, gloomy yet apathetic and detached, in the sense that yeah everything's fucked, but why bother worrying?
So
and
it
then
goes.
there's exactly so it goes. And then there's first-person shooters, quote end quote, like Deus Ex Human Revolution, which I honestly just consider an RPG with first-person shooter elements.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Where it has this unified style, where there's or it has the common recurring theme is like hexagons and what do you call the things with the 4 sides that look like diamonds?
Honeycombs?
What?
Honeycombs.
Honeycombs, I suppose. Whatever.
The honeycomb hideout.
It has those recurring themes in like clothing and stuff, and technology, and it has this black and golden color scheme, which gives it its own feel, its own identity. Where this isn't just, you know, this isn't just, you know, 20 years into the future, but with sleeker, shinier shit. This is 20 years into the future when styles, fashions have changed, but still remain the same in some respects.
Although I will say some of those dresses were kind of ridiculous.
Are any of today's dresses any more sane?
Well, okay. Although you'd find the contemporary youths or utes dressed in ripped up jeans and generally looking like a complete slob, but oh well.
My point is, when you're doing an art style for any game, not just shooters, you have to know what the hell it is you're making. What kind of game? Is it a funny game? Is it a somber game? Is it a darkly humorous game? Any of that shit. You have to figure out what your setting is and how it'll reflect upon how things, not just not just look in terms of, is it gonna be, plastisteel casings, or is it gonna be PVC piping, but how is it going to appear as well? Because there's a difference between what something looks like and how it appears. The look is basically shiny offices. Appearance is, what kind of color scheme? What will it evoke in the player? Will the colors evoke a sort of feeling of constraint? Or will it guide their eyes to certain specific key points that'll take away their attention from something that's really important that they'll only see on the second playthrough, that kind of thing.
And this actually gets into an interesting concept. Not to interrupt. I'm gonna let you finish, but that actually opens up an interesting concept. And that concept is Bulletstorm. I don't know. Did you ever play that game?
No, I just know it exists.
Bulletstorm is a good example of a game that had a good idea that was let down by design. And what I mean by that is, Bulletstorm tried to be a throwback to the classic FPS genre. And it succeeded as a game, but did not succeed as a throwback. And what I mean by that is, the game had a colorful nature to it. It had that art style of a, Twitch shooter like, say, Rise of the Triad here. Because that's really the big problem that everyone has, and quite rightly, that most modern FPSs are all just dull brown, which gets old after a while, but that's realistic, right? What Bulletstorm tried to be was a zany shooter, and it looked it, but it didn't act it. Basically, they tried to have... Oh, you can just walk through the glass, like in the original game. Basically, what they had was a real letdown when it came to the story. And the story is what drives the game, after all.
Depends on the game.
Well, in this case, it's what drives the game. Or put it another way, most modern games are definitely more driven by their stories than just gameplay. I mean, Rise of the Triad here is literally just run around and shoot things, and we'll get into the differences between Rise of the Triad and Doom, because it's actually a debate you and I were having a bit earlier about you're stating that Doom is better than Rise of the Triad, whereas I would say it's a different style of first-person shooter. But
back to your original point.
Back to it. But I digress a lot. Anyway, the big problem with Bulletstorm is it's a well-made game, it's a fun game, but it doesn't have the staying power of, say, Rise of the Triad here, or even Rise of the Triad 2013, because it doesn't have its own identity. It takes itself too seriously while trying to be humorous, and fails at doing both. You've got this really colorful, really zany game, but you have a very somber, very serious story that you could take it for black humor, but it doesn't take the piss out of anything. So, basically, imagine, say, something like Modern Warfare, something really serious, international terrorism, people getting killed, like, civilians getting killed and stuff like that, and then mixing that with an art style and an overall setting that is kind of ridiculous. I think the best example would be to say, imagine
if all the levels in Call of Duty were Burger Town.
Or, put another way, imagine Modern Warfare meets Borderlands. They do not make good bedfellows. And so by not having its own unique personality, it's just, well, that was a thing. You don't really know how to feel. 1 minute, you've got a main villain who is a racist, like a legit racist, not just, that's racist. More of a, yeah, this guy's a hardcore racist and misogynist, as in he actually is one. Who you really hate, and the game does a good job of making you hate him, and then it cuts to evil plant boss. And you got 1 minute zany, I swear, the main character, the main protagonist is, imagine Stephen Blum trying to emulate Jack Black. I swear, that's what I got, okay? I got Jack Black from that character. I really did.
I'm sorry, that's like... I have an easier time imagining the Pope at a strip club.
Well, it seems to me like it's supposed to be Space Marine Jack Black. That's what I got from it. Or a really shittily written Wolverine. But, see, here's the problem, though. 1 minute, he's... Wait, go on. Go on.
Considering he has the mutton chops and the hair...
Well, then it's shitty Wolverine. You know what? Okay, I didn't know this back in the day, but I do know now. Basically, his character is Ultimate Wolverine from Ultimate Spider-Man. That's what he is. A caricature of what Wolverine is supposed to be.
I mean Ultimate X-Men, right? Even though technically in Ultimate X-Men, he was handled okay, I suppose.
No, I mean Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon series. That
Oh, okay.
But, let's see, the thing is, though, 1 minute he's boozing it up and Kamikaze crashes his spaceship into the enemy spaceship, right? Because there's an enemy spaceship. And next minute he's like, I lost my whole unit. They were like brothers to me. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? 1 minute he's getting drunk, next minute... The thing is, though, it can work as a satire, but it doesn't do it, though. It doesn't... It's not written as a satire. The reason I say it could be a satire, it could be a satire of, like, Modern Warfare. In fact, you know what what they could have almost done with that game? Is they could have taken the piss out of every Space Marine trope of all time by basically making this main character out to basically be a guy who was basically a good guy, but is suffering from severe PTSD from all his years of fighting. Once again, the game doesn't do this, though.
You know what would have been better? To have it be revealed at some point that he suffers from PTSD from all the fighting, and then subvert that to high holy hell and back to reveal that the PTSD from all the horrific battles is essentially just him having lost 10,000 rounds in Call of Duty.
That could potentially work. It'd work better in the story that we got, which just constantly doesn't know what it wants to be or what it wants to do.
And that's the problem with any whatchamacallit, piece of fiction that doesn't have a unifying theory, guiding force? Basically, okay, theme, I suppose. Basically, when you want to do something but you don't know how to do it, when you basically don't have skilled enough writers to do it, or when somebody says, go do this, but also do this at the same time, like, do a handstand, but also pick your nose with both your hands.
That is probably the best way to describe not Borderlands, Bulletstorm. Is, it just doesn't know what it wants to be. And it fails because of it. It's like, 1 minute, be like Doom! You know, with like, all the craziness. Next minute, be like Modern Warfare, with all the serious somberness. But sir, that doesn't make any sense. The audience won't know how to feel. Shut up, just make it. Or I'll put you on the hat detail.
You know what would have been funny? If then they added into the game, like a box of supplies dropped by the recon ship or something. Finally, we'll get to refill on ammunition. What the fuck is this? A top hat? An army hat? A sailor hat? What the fuck is this shit? And then one of the guys says, well, hey, at least we got some stylish hats.
I do feel sorry for anybody who works at Valve these days.
What the fuck does Valve even do?
I don't know. They make hats for TF2. That's it. That, of course, is more or less a rip-off of a Yahtzee joke, but I had to make it.
It's like, okay, they're secretly developing Half-Life 3, which I doubt, or they just literally have people go to the office to sit around and get their paycheck because Steam is making all of their money.
That could be it. Because I know that with all the goodwill they still have, if they released Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Dota 3, but fuck Dota, I hate MOBAs. But yeah, now let's segue into one other particular topic, and that is different styles of first-person shooter. Now, when you think of Doom, what style do you think of?
Pixelated, fast, fluid, and incredibly violent.
Now, when you think of Rise of the Triad, what comes to mind?
Slow, not that, well, slower than Doom. Not fantastical enough, and kind of weird.
Well, you know, I would actually go as far to say that they're not fantastical enough. It just depends on how far you get in the game, I guess.
I only played episode 1 and not even finished the first level.
Well, then... there you go. You know, I played 1 minute of Modern Warfare, and I thought it was amazing. I especially like the part where you, do the training. but seriously, though. No, because the thing is, Rise of the Triad is just as fantastical as Doom. However, it was put in an interesting way in an article on the website Hardcore Gaming 101, a website I highly recommend taking a look at. If any of you guys out there have any interest in gaming, they have a lot of really good articles on gaming. They really go in depth, and I will shill for them because I think they're cool, even if they're not giving me any money for it. But anyway, now that basically we're talking about Doom is a much more slow and methodical kind of game. You have to really manage your ammo appropriately so you can fight the various enemies. Whereas Rise of the Triad is more of an arcade-style first-person shooter. Wherein, because I don't know if you remember or not, the weapons you have in Rise of the Triad, except for the special weapons, are all infinite ammo weapons. Your machine gun has infinite ammo, so mainly the whole idea of Rise of the Triad is just try to get through the levels as quickly as possible without dying. And really what separates Doom from Rise of the Triad is Doom has a few more Doom has a much more strategic element to it, because there's so many different enemies, versus Rise of the Triad here, where it's basically just the same couple of guys over and over again. But what Rise of the Triad does is it really encourages memorization. So you can know where to go, because the levels are much larger than the ones in Doom, at least they feel larger to me, and are much more maze-like. And also in Rise of the Triad, you have to deal with a lot of tricks and traps, you know, whereas in Doom it's really just shoot monster in face. Except for the level tricks and traps in Doom 2, but that's neither here nor there. So, yeah. Although, honestly, which would you find would be a better, well, better in a subjective sense? A more shooting-oriented game, or a more, one could say, obstacle-oriented?
I'd say that Doom is a much more shooting-oriented game, because in Doom you have no real puzzles, and even if you do, they're not the main focus of the game. The main focus is to kill all the enemies and not die yourself. Whereas, as you said, in Rise of the Triad, you have to like explore and memorize. So that's another facet of the game that you have to beat. Only it's not an active enemy; it's more of a passive obstacle. So I'd say that Doom is much more shooting-oriented, and because of that, it's literally a pick-up-and-play. You don't have to give a shit.
And, you know, I think that might be why Doom ended up being a much more popular game than Rise of the Triad. Is basically, Rise of the Triad isn't a game... Now, I've already played through this. That's why I'm just flying through here, doing everything. But, I think Doom is a much more cathartic experience. It's just shoot, shoot, shoot again. Whereas Rise of the Triad actually does make you think. You have to know what to do and when to do it. But you know what's interesting about the two games, really?
What?
It's hard to say which one could actually be better. Because they do...
Depends on your taste.
Well, that too, but I'd almost say they're sort of equivalent to one another. They do different things. It's like saying, is Super Mario better than Doom? You can't compare the two. Because it's kind of like asking, is a dump truck a good sports utility vehicle? It's not! Especially if it's bigger than the building you're trying to go to.
But it is a better way to get rid of a body.
Not really. Depends on which dump truck we're talking about.
Well, if you manage to get it right, it can sort of mangle the body if we're talking about a crusher or garbage truck.
Actually, I was talking about a dump truck.
Oh, a dump truck. Okay, never mind.
Incidentally, talking about mangling a body. Shut up. That reminds me of a game that... Shut up! It reminds me of a game that I should review at some point called Vigilante 8. It has nothing to do with first-person shooting, and instead has something to do with vehicular destruction games. Did you ever play any of those?
Like Carmageddon, like maybe 5 minutes.
So no Twisted Metal?
Nope.
Like,
You gotta understand, for
oh shit.
most of my childhood years, I never gave a shit about, you know, anything that did not involve characters, you know, people. Because to me it was like, oh, okay, like cars, oh, whatever. I was never one of those kids who gave a shit about technology as an end in itself. I was always more interested in the characters who use it. And in Carmageddon, it's like the people are inside the cars. I can't really get them out and have them fight each other that way, so who cares?
You know, I find myself some fatigued. Could I have some coffee, please?
You have to remember that we're still living with 17th century technology here, so we don't know about this copy.
The trade ships haven't arrived yet. From the new
Nope,
world.
not yet. You gotta remember, the ships only sail
Oh,
properly.
damn it all. How far back am I? Oh, well, it's not too far. Okay, go on.
You gotta remember, the trade ships only sail when there's wind in the sails.
So you guys really need to update to the steam engine at some point. I hear Gabe Newell
The update
releasing
is
a new
downloading.
controller.
The update is downloading.
But yeah, let's see, what was I? Before I... You know, it's funny, see, since I guess you were predominantly a PC gamer growing up more than anything else, I'd imagine, right?
My first games were on the PC. One of them which was Claw, or Captain Claw, depending on where you played it. The anthropomorphic ship captain dude. But most of my games in my childhood were played on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. I only ever became a PC gamer from 2005 onwards, and really became one when I got my laptop in 2008, and sadly when it died in 2011, I kinda stopped with the whole gaming master race.
Well, see, then that doesn't make any sense, because I would imagine you would have been able to take a look at Twisted Metal, because that was a PlayStation 1 exclusive for the longest. No, it wasn't an exclusive, but it was primarily a PlayStation franchise.
You gotta remember, back in the day, being a gamer, at least in my family, was not a thing. What games you knew of was what you got in magazines and what you gave a shit about. And I didn't give a shit about Twisted Metal or anything like that.
Well,
the things I cared about... What?
well, actually, go on.
Things I cared about were, you know, like Spider-Man games, X-Men games, anything that looked cool and bloody, and the occasional RPG from time to time. For the longest times until I got a PS2, my most played RPG, the only played RPG, was Final Fantasy IX.
Which apparently is good. But Final Fantasy VIII, that would cause Spoony to go insane.
Oh wait, I did play Final Fantasy VIII for a short while. The only problem is my grasp on English wasn't that good at the time, so I could never get onto the fucking train to get to the Hootie Owl password people.
Well, that would be a problem.
I remember when I was a fucking kid, when I played Final Fantasy IX, at first I couldn't get past the Black Waltz. Then I could get past the Black Waltz number 2. But Black Waltz number 3, Jesus fucking Christ, he was hard. You gotta remember, as a kid, again, my grasp of English was very fucking simple, so I did not have any concept of this thing called grinding, or using better gear. So, my first experiences with RPGs, JRPGs in this case, were rocky, but they left a good impression.
And see, my grasp of English was great, only I was... Shit, come on! Bullshit! One moment. God damn it. I don't have any saves. Other than this one checkpoint. Well, glad I have it, because now we're gonna play through all that again. Fucking robots. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, I used to be too lazy to grind. So why am I dying all the time? But anyway, the only reason I actually played any vehicular destruction games was solely because I ran across a game called Vigilante 8. It was the N64 equivalent to Twisted Metal. And believe it or not, Twisted Metal and Vigilante 8 both actually do have a strong cast of characters. It's not at all like Carmageddon. It was actually Opal who was the Carmageddon fan. I never actually had heard of it until she mentioned it. Although I was aware of the one with Duke Nukem. And I always wanted to play that one, but I never could. Not sure why, though. I think it's just one of those that we never really found in real life, which did happen from time to time back in the day. You just wouldn't find it, you know?
Those were dark times, children.
And the only reason I knew a Duke Nukem, the driving game with Duke Nukem in it. I think that could have been a Carmageddon spin-off. I'm not sure though. But the only reason I knew of that game was there was a little tiny ad for it in the back of some FPS, and I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was Quake 2. I'm not sure. But it was like, Duke Nukem's in a racing game? That's awesome! Because Duke Nukem's so cool. They're like, now he drives a car. Ugh. I'm not sure if you have to waggle the mouse or you have to use the A and D keys. But anyway, let's save before we get vaporized by those fucking robots. But anyway, I forget what my subject was, or maybe we already were on the same subject but ran out of topic.
Something Carmageddon, something. Me being a PC gamer, but not. Something.
Oh, that's what I was trying to mention. No, that Vigilante 8 and also the Twisted Metal. Shit, that was a waste of that flame one, but I don't have another rocket. Oh wait, this one. Okay, good. Goddamn robots! That's one thing I love about Rise of the Triad, is the enemies are really quite good. And actually, the only reason I decided to do this was because... Crap, there's crushers in here. And I don't have God mode. When I played through this the first time, I had God mode, and I just let them crush me because they couldn't hurt me. Shit. Cunt. And various other swears.
That are only 4 letters long.
Well, I can't just keep saying cretin and damn it all. That's what I used to use all the time, if you recall correctly. God damn it! Fuck. Give health. Goddamn fire blocks. But anyway, Vigilante 8 was an interesting vehicular game. Basically, you had a variety of characters to choose from. You had the titular vigilantes, who were trying to... Goddamn, what were they trying to do? I haven't thought about that game in a long time. I still have it, actually, on my N64. It's just in a box somewhere. I even had the sequel that came out on the Sega Dreamcast. That would later be ported to the N64. No! God damn it. But you had... Okay, you had the Vigilantes. They were the good guys. And then you had... who were those guys called? I keep wanting to say OPEC. Yeah, well, they... Okay, they were basically playing... The enemy was basically... they represented OPEC. I don't know if you know what OPEC is.
Some sort of Aztec god?
Not exactly. No, not exactly. OPEC...
I'm close.
OPEC is actually an acronym for, well, a variety of oil-producing nations in the Middle East. they basically sort of set the price for oil that they export. There was actually a major economic crisis in the 1970s because they basically placed an oil embargo on the United States. That of course later led to the manufacture of smaller... Goddamn robot! Anyway, manufacture of smaller cars for a number of years simply because gasoline was, well, rather scarce.
And then the U.S. came to a great idea. What if there was a terrorist attack? And then we had to go to war to get revenge. And then suddenly more terrorists popped up every year in different countries.
That would be accurate, except this took place about 20 years before that happened. Well, this took place in the 1970s. So
my point is, that's what's happening now because they want more oil.
Well, that's not even really accurate. That's pop culture politics. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
You're telling me that the U.S. did not create Bin Laden or ISIS, and I don't mean literally create them, but facilitate their creation.
Really? We're not getting into conspiracy theories, because that of course implies that the government is capable of doing such things, and quite honestly, after seeing some of the things that take place with the United States government, I'm sorry, but I don't think they facilitated a terrorist attack, blah 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 blah.
The thing is, they don't need to be competent when it comes to their own country. They only have to be competent when it comes to them getting what they want covertly. As you said, when you want to kill somebody, you'll stop being stupid. But when you want to pull the wool over other people's eyes, you'll get real fucking smart, real fucking fast.
And there's also the other one, the razor one, where essentially,
Hanlon's razor or Occam's razor?
Old Hanlon. That implies that the government was, well, that they did it on purpose. And quite honestly, if you study history...
Hanlon's razor only applies to maliciousness and stupidity. Here, it's not a matter of maliciousness. Here, it's a matter of not giving a shit about your people, which is just general apathy or lack of empathy.
Whoa, that guy.
Depending on the person, and greed, which Hanlon's razor does not take into account. Yes, I know I'm being very anal.
Robots again. One hit. Continue, please.
I know I'm being very anal at this point, but I don't give a shit. Now you know how it feels when you start picking nits.
But what I have to say mainly is, that's of course the popular conspiracy theory of America evil. Yeah. If you actually look at the real history behind everything that happened, it's a lot more murky than you'd first think. Really, it's best not to pass judgment on any of that, and, well, I'm just a random internet guy, so I'm not privy to all the information, as you can imagine.
Or you want us to think that?
So,
how much are they paying you, John?
Not nearly enough. Otherwise, I'd have a good graphics card. But the fact is,
they're paying Cheeto dust and Mountain Dew bottles. Not Mountain Dew, but empty Mountain Dew bottles.
God. Is that how Spoonie gets his money? Although I have to be angry at the fucking idiot who made a really badly tasted joke towards Spoonie in one of his streams, and I actually kind of like his streams. He doesn't have as much audience engagement as he should, but what's there is there was funny, and Spoonie's still a funny guy. I still like his stuff. I still eat whatever little bit he gives, I eat it up, so. But the idea that they would mock something that happened to his brother as though it was funny just kind of goes to show you how completely crappy those people actually are. But ultimately, I basically decided to do this Let's Play, getting onto that topic, because a fan commented on Brutal Doom version 20, the live stream I did, saying that Brutal Doom is kind of overrated in some respects, or he might not have said that. If you didn't say that, good. But if you did say that, then ultimately Brutal Doom is kind of overrated, and I'm not even going to deny that. And since it is, I wanted to start showcasing a few other Doom mods, ones that aren't quite as popular. And I just chose this one literally because I read an article on it. I was like, is it any good? And, oh yeah, it's fucking amazing! So that's why we're only going to do episode 1. I don't want to spoil episode 2 if you guys actually want to play the game. Which I highly recommend because it's a lot of fun. Even if the M-Man thinks Doom is better. I mean, I can't really say anything against that, can I? It's like, no, it's not. It's like, hey John, do you like candy or do you like cake? Which one's better? Cake is go fuck yourself.
The one that starts with C is the best.
Exactly. It's like, Doom is not as... which one's better, Batman or Superman?
Batman. Batman.
Well, technically his stories do have a bit more enjoyment in them. Okay, so that's still on. Super Batman.
Thing is, if somebody with actual skill wrote any of the modern-day Superman comics, I'd read them. But most of these people I either don't give a shit about, or people who I don't know about, so God knows if they're any good. I know that's a complete logical fallacy to operate on, but it's a Superman comic. I don't need to be intellectually honest here.
Well, the big problem with Superman has always been just... Well, and actually, that's kind of creeping up with creeping up. That's the big problem with Batman now. Although apparently Court of Owls subverts this in some ways. Old Batman is unfortunately he almost has Superman levels of powers. Let's just be honest here, people.
That only applies to the pop culture vision of Batman. Because you see, saying that Batman has the powers of God is like saying that the South was nothing but slave owners from coast to coast, and that Abraham Lincoln loved black people as if they were his own children. Neither account is correct.
Well, it is true, but we could have probably said that in a less un-PC way.
Fuck PC.
Especially after the old, America evil statement. Holy crap! Poison gas. That wasn't fun.
I'm a man of contradictions. So what do you want?
But
point being, saying that Batman is Bat God is retarded. He actually does have to work for his victories. Shit, even in the latest story arc that concluded, Batman Endgame, even there he had to work to defeat the villain of the story.
Well, in all reality, Batman isn't quite the super Batman that everyone thinks he is.
It's really just Chad Thundercock and his buddies Thad, Brad, Aiden, Caden, Jaden, and Brayden.
Man, Batman is so cool. I bet he can defeat Galactus, man.
That's
Galactus
Marvel, you fucker. Marvel, like with Batman America. Oh my God, I bet that's been said. You know it has, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody probably said Batman America at some point, mistaking Captain America and Batman as being the same character.
I know, but my point being, like, Batman is not God. It's only idiots who think that he is God. And I'm pretty sure there may or may not have been some Elseworld story where he does turn into some sort of physical God. But still, point being, he's not a Mary Sue as some people would have it.
Well, here's a, Well, sir, there are exactly 2 comics that follow that particular concept. Fuck. The first one, of course, is where Batman was Superman. The comic was called Superman Speeding Bullets, and it wasn't very good. Then there was the time Batman was Green Lantern, and then Joe Chill became the Joker because he merged with what's that guy? Sinestro. Don't ask me how that made sense. And here's the funny thing. The comic itself had promise, but the thing is, it was very poorly written. Essentially, you had Green Bat, and Green Bat wasn't that bad. However, there was a problem that Green Bat ran into, of course, was he wanted to stay on Earth to police Gotham, right? The Guardians of the Galaxy?
The Galaxy?
The
Guardians of Boa?
Yeah, that's the ones. Didn't like that. So, the writers had to make it to where Batman would leave the planet. So, you take Joe Chill, you combine him with I keep wanting to say Parallax, but it wasn't Parallax, it was... You combine him with, Sinestro, and have Sinestro leave the planet. Now you have Space Joker! It wasn't... That's why it was an Elseworlds. There's a lot... It seems like for every good Elseworlds, there's got to be at least 15 shitty ones. You know?
I only know of one good Elseworlds. Superman Red Sun.
Well, that's the one everyone talks about. Everybody thinks that one's good.
Although, if we count, what's the one called where it's Mortal Kombat mechanics, but the DC heroes fight each other?
What's the name of that first-person shooter where, like, the demons come out and try to kill people? The demon shooter? No, what you literally just described was the most complex way of saying the title of Mortal Kombat versus DC.
No. That's not the one. That's not the one.
That's the only one! What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, you fucking lunatic? There was literally one fighting game made by NetherRealm Studios, which is just the DC heroes fighting each other. Basically, Joker kills Lois Lane, Superman kills Joker, Superman tries to become Tyrant, Batman and company try to stop him, then at some point they develop the Superman pill, which if you take, you can literally beat the shit out of Superman because you're then on his level. What the fuck is it called? Something year 1, year 2, year 3, Battle of the Gods. No, that's Dragon Ball Z. Gods Among Us. Among Us.
We just finished the game, and that's all we're gonna do. But yes, it is Injustice Gods Among Us, yes.
Yes, that's what it's called.
That's a pretty decent Elseworlds, I suppose, but that's more of a crossover more than anything else.
How so?
Well, I mean, Elseworlds takes place in its own self-contained universe, whereas in this one, it has characters from a sort of mainline universe crossing over to an alternate universe. And even then, that alternate universe isn't that different, as it really is just sort of a send-off of the Justice Lords concept more than anything else. Basically, a more edgy Justice Lords timeline more than anything else.
Just when in the hell did the baseline Justice League or whatever cross over into the Injustice reality?
That's the whole point of the game.
What? No.
Okay.
Maybe the comic is different from the game, but in the comic there's no crossing realities as far as I know, unless it's like in year 3 of the comics.
The
comic only read up to year 2.
My God, sir, you're so out of touch with reality. The comic is the prequel to the game. I'll break it down for you. Okay. In the game, you got 616, Earth 616 ends up crossing over to...
That's Marvel, dumbass.
Well, whatever. You got the mainline verse going to the other verse. Now, the other verse isn't the Injustice universe. It's not what you're thinking with, like, Ultraman and the other guys. No, it starts out as 616, but for one change, Superman goes evil. Just like the Justice Lords timeline, except instead of Wally West, it's instead Lois Lane.
Lois Lane.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're nerdy. So yeah, if you like the game, I recommend giving it a download and trying out the second episode. Well, obviously play the first one first, but if you like the episode 1, episode 2 is just as good. So in any event, it is I, GeneralLotz.
And I, the man of M.
And we're going to be signing off yet again.